All right, well, first of all, thanks a lot for coming on. We talk a lot about on this podcast. We're a bunch of JTACs that are on this podcast. Once in a while we'll have somebody else that's on, like yourself. And a lot of times we'll talk about the assets that we use in combat. And I personally, and there's a couple other guys that share the sentiment, I personally loved the AC-130. I thought the gunship was in a permissive environment, obviously, but I always thought it was the most reactive, and it had the most situational awareness of the battlefield. Like they could um, provide me everything I needed, whether it be non-traditional ISR or fire support or just basic advice on what to do next. They were always real helpful. So it's interesting. I had a buddy of mine on. He worked in the box, and he was like, I think a fire control officer or something like that.
Gotcha.
And it's interesting to have the other side. Like we worked in the back. You worked as a gunner. And so I would definitely want to get into that. It's interesting that I want to hear that part of it. I wrote on one before, but I was in the box. Didn't get a chance to be in the back and see all the action. So I'm interested to hear how that goes. But first, let's go back. You grew up in North Carolina. Tell me about that. Tell me about what prompted you to join the military, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, JD. I grew up in a small town, Silva, North Carolina. There, about an hour west of Asheville. If you ever been in the mountains in Appalachia, there, a whole lot of nothing in the town. You could probably, I used to joke and say you could throw a baseball across it.
Right.
Yeah. About 17, and I had really no drive or no direction in my life, stuff like that. And my dad gives me the typical senior year in high school talk, like, son, you're this age, you need to either get a job, go to college, or get out. And so at that point, I talked to I think an Army recruiter and a Navy recruiter, and the Navy was like, yeah, you'll be on a boat for like 6 months. And I was like, it's not for me, man. I'll talk to my dad about the Air Force, because he was actually a communications guy down at MacDill at one point for like 4 years, but that was way before I was born. And then talked to me about quality of life and all that good stuff. And then, well, yeah, I'll give the Air Force a shot, man. I signed up to be a weapons loader, was my first job, or load to is what they used to call us. And, did basic training there in San Antonio, then went to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, loading the Strike Eagle aircraft out there, and did that. And then 9/11 happens a year and some change after. And then at that point, I was like, man, like I sort of, I'm sort of tempted and trying to get them to fight a little bit. And I thought about the firefighters that day that ran in. And I was like, man, like I think I could do that. So I did the weapons thing for about 5 years, and then retrained again into what was then, fire protection, aircraft, fire and rescue. Went to Charleston, so each job about 5 years. And then 2010, I was home on leave and sitting there, man, at the pizza shop, and there's the same cracks in the road. And basically, like, what I mean by that, I get home, realize, like, man, I've done nothing. And at that point, like, same people doing the same thing. And I was like, excuse me, I don't want to leave cracks, I want to leave craters.
Sure.
So then, like, what better way to do that than to join the gunship community? And basically, I chose to fly on the AC-130 H model gunship in the 16th SOS. After that point, like, I got to do more than a 1.5 hour flight than I'd done my whole life for my country, on the H model gunship there. So a lot of pride flying on those same tail numbers that flew in Vietnam, 6972, things like that.
Yeah.
And then, I did that for, we'll say, 4.5, 5 years. Did the Whiskey Block 20 when it was 30 mil only for a little bit. And then I went to 60s out at Moody in the 41st Rescue Squadron. Did that 4 years. Came back. My sunset tour did 2.5 years here at Canada again, almost 3, then retired. So here I am, tried to write my first book, read on a 5th grade level, man, but we'll see how it, the debut goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Your book, Moonchild, it's available for purchase right now.
It is. Yeah. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere they sell books. It's Moonchild, okay. The Roots and Wings of Combat, U.S. Air Force Special Missions Aviator.
All right. Tell me about that. Like, what kind of topics do you cover in the book? Is it more about your chronological life, or is it do you have specific incidences that you talk about, or tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah. Basically has an overall theme of like perseverance. My first flight on a gunship, man, it went this bad to where like the instructor said something to the effect of like, you're the reason they have to brief seatbelts on airliners, and then he asked me basically what the most important word in the dictionary is. I didn't know. It's like perseverance. I want you to think about that before your next flight. And I did. And once I got that first live fire under my belt, man, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And even before that, though, like the roots part of it was basically growing up in Appalachian, like some of the things I was taught growing up that's unique to that area, stuff like that, like water dowsing, things like that. But yeah, it was just growing up and that heritage there, and basically the thing that you can have your roots and your wings, but it's good to know where you come from, but more important to know where you're going. So.
Sure. Well, like I said before, I'm kind of interested in how the back end works of that. Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about that. Tell me about loading. Like, did you load did you load every gun, or do you guys have people assigned to each gun, or tell me a little bit about how it works back there?
Yes. So back then, a traditional like aerial gunner, you were considered the weapons expert of the crew, and basically on the H model Spectre gunship, we didn't even pressurize in that thing, man. We had the 40 mil Bofors cannon, and then we had the 105 howitzer, and that was it for that time frame. And where an aerial gunner makes his money, he's loading them, of course, but on the gunship is really malfunction analysis, man. So you're basically recognizing what you got, and there's a plethora on the 40 mil especially. There was a lot of different malfunctions you could get, and basically clear that out. And I know it sounds simple enough, but you can imagine, one of you guys JTAC on the ground, you can hear the intensity in the voice and getting shot at, and you can't figure out what's wrong with your gun. You don't want to be that guy, So took a lot of pride, man, in being the weapons experts of the crew. Everything from cycle of operations to malfunction analysis and clearing out stuff like that. And you would also scan, for threats, targets. There's a lot of times you would see like tracer fire. The Mark I eyeball would pick it up before anything, and you would do a sparkle talk on, stuff like that. So it was a blast, man. I loved every second of it.
So when correct me if I'm wrong, but the 40 millimeter is it like a 4-round magazine, or tell me a little bit about that? Like I know a little bit, but not much. And I know that 105 is like a single load, or tell me something about that. I mean, obviously don't get into any classified information, but
no problem. So the 40 mil, no problem. The Bofors cannon was originally, designed by the Navy to be an anti-aircraft artillery piece, and then what the Air Force did was hung it on the side of a C-130, and you're right, it does come in the 4-round clips. You would basically, you would pre-strike it, get one basically cocked, ready to go we had a safing pin, if you will, for the breech block there before we'd put the guns online, and then you put a clip on top of that, then another clip. So you're looking at 9 rounds in the gun at one time.
Okay.
And then basically there was a single rate of fire, then there was a rapid rate of fire is what we called it. Then back then we had the enlisted sensor operators who, what we would call pull the trigger and aim the weapon, stuff like that. You'd rock them in, man, as fast as they could get them out. So I think the range was 60 to 100 rounds per minute, depending on what mode of fire we're in. Yeah. So it was a lot of hate, and we did the everything from high explosive incendiary, to the armor piercing rounds, stuff like that. But it was probably my favorite weapon now to look back at it. So
yeah. Now the 105, that's just a single load. You just take the round and throw it in there, and
it takes really, you can get the 10 rounds per minute out, 10 to 12, if you have a good gun crew. But like basically you got a guy passing in a perfect world, and the guy operating the breech is what we call it, slaving it and arming it. Gun goes boom, then he kicks it out. And then usually the lead gun's on the other side catching brass, or what was then load master. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you get 10 in the air in a minute, man. Just the whole crew working together, and it's that organized chaos. Hearing you guys on the ground, I loved it. So
speaking of that, so all that brass just comes out in the aircraft. So when you're done, do you just have a ton of it, or do you have like a system to police up the brass while you're doing it, or is it just like it's just everywhere?
Yeah. So I'll start with the 105. So we have a barrel back there, big, 55 gallon drum, whatever it is, this metal thing. And basically what I would do first is the crash seats that were on the ramp, where the loadmaster would sit facing the back sometimes. So I would stack some up there, at least the tweak rounds, and then the rest of them we would throw in that barrel as nice as we could. But if it was hot and heavy, man, you'd kick them out of the way and get the next round going, So
right.
The 40 mil had bags actually that would hang on there, and they would fill up. I think it was about approximately 100 spent cases it would hold.
Oh, okay.
They would fill up quick. It was one of those things too. You had to take the gun away real quick and get a new bag, get it back online as fast as you could. And the 30 mil nowadays is what they got, because nowadays it's more, if you think about it, like a bomb truck. It has the 30 mil and the 105, your Griffins, and then your SDBs and some other things. But it's the 30 mil can get messy, man. It has a cage we put out. And basically, you have the old 40 mil bags. We rolled them up, made them smaller so they fit under there for the the link ejection chute where it's coming out there. And it fills up quick, man. If you don't stay ahead of it, and those things are hot, man, when they come out too. So,
man, I can't just if you're on a mission and you're really getting after it, and the guy on the ground's calling for fire, you guys have to be jobbing back there. I mean, it's got to be fast and furious,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure. I mean, it just
Yeah, man. I always joke, man, because we look like a bunch of coal miners after. If you ever seen us after a big shoot, man,
yeah,
like just all the soot and stuff on us. But yeah, you're considered I guess a lot of people joke say sweaties of the crew or the workhorses of the crew.
sure,
Stuff like that. Yeah, so it's really you almost turn into a flying artillery guy.
right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, all them other guys are just sitting up in the booth, like in air conditioning and chilling out, and you guys are back there working.
Yeah, man. Dude, I remember like probably one of the best ass I got, man, was there's this old crusty Lee gun I had one of my first trips, and like like I said, we didn't pressurize, so the H model got really cold in Afghanistan,
Oh, yeah.
really high altitude stuff like that. And man, I was between the 40 and 105, and I'm anticipating this calls for fire. Like how like you at that point I hadn't had a real call for fire yet, and it's sort of like when I was in the fire department, you're anticipating a call, you're expecting, and it never happens.
Sure.
But long story short, and then I took the heat duct off, and I got in a 40 mil bag, man, and I took the tube out and put it down in there just to warm my feet, and like everybody's like, man, it's cold, and I was like, not like a dumbass, I was like, yeah, man, it's toasty back here, He's like, Lee gun's checking off. Went back there, let me have it, man. A few kicks, all that good stuff. So,
Hey, that's smart. What do you think? Yeah, what's he worried about? That's good thinking.
It was part of it though. It was a joke now, but yeah.
Yeah. So on the H model, now in your first assignment, was it only H models, or did you go any U models as well? Or you said whiskeys
on my first
too.
time, it just So I did the H model original Inspector gunship. Then I did the Whiskey Block 20, Block 10, which was the 30 mil only.
Okay.
And then we had Griffins and STBs at that point too. And then we really, when we left Afghanistan and went to the ISIS fight, that's the Whiskey. That was the first if I remember, the first airframe in the air there.
Nice.
So yeah, I remember like we were in Bagram, man, and like I just remember hearing a bunch of shuffling outside, and they woke one of the other crews to leave one of us there. We got left in Afghanistan, and they went to what was then Kuwait to hit ISIS, So.
Okay. So on an H model, and again, if I'm getting too far into the weeds, let me know. But I know on the U model, I want to say you can identify two targets at once. Like they had the sensors were such that you could, and probably whiskey too. Can the H model do that, or was it just one target only at a time?
Yeah. We did what they call a dual target attack.
Yeah.
And like a prime example of that being used would be like, let's say you guys say, hey, give us a 105 delay round on this structure, right? And then the other guy would have the 40 mil pointed towards the exit when they ran out, in case there were squirters or whatever the case was, So it was actually pretty awesome to see, man. You pump a delay in it, and then they start running out like a beehive. They start cleaning them up with a 40 mil. But yeah, that'd be an example of that.
Okay.
So.
Do you have any specific incidences that you remember being during that first deployment, or do you anything that stood out that was a little more action than normal?
Oh yeah. My first shoot ever, man. It was rare a gunship flies in the daytime, because of what happened in Desert Storm and stuff. But basically, like I remember, like we had landed. I haven't shot at all at this point, and like I said, I'm anticipating this call, right, and wanting to do my job. And the aircraft commander came back, and we were loading the rounds we'd shot from the previous. All we did was shoot the tweak rounds, like 7 to 9 rounds, something like that.
Right.
And then he's like, there's a Green Beret team taking the fire. A pin down's the way he put it. And he's like, you guys with me? And we're all like, yeah, man, our own version of send me, if you will. And,
sure.
I remember flying overhead, man, and it's pinky time, the sun's coming up, and then I see just two bright flashes, RPGs. And at that point, the combat controller had already cleared us. We went back to the 40 mil, got on it, and I think it was about 60 rounds approximately for 3 guys that had RPGs and packs, and we burned them to a crisp at that point. So,
man,
and I was like, man, this is what I want to do. So,
but that's also got to be kind of a harrowing feeling, like because you're essentially a gunship is very vulnerable in the daytime, kind of like you were alluding to. So, like, if that had to be, you feel kind of helpless because without, and also, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but without getting into any specifics or any classified stuff. What kind of countermeasures do you guys have? I know every 130's got the flares and stuff like that. Did you guys have anything different or anything extra?
Yeah, but think about this. Yeah, so we had of course, the chaff and flares. We had another thing I probably won't get into on here, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But just the normal chaff and flares. And,
yeah. But, it came a long way since the Desert Storm thing and all that.
Right.
So.
But that still had to be like you're crossing your fingers like, come on, work,
Yeah, man. It's a lot of times like you'd get a tone right, like which at that point the system's picked up an eye or a plume at things, and it could be something as simple as like a secondary from an explosion. So you sort of had to really have SA, and like what was going on,
Yeah.
or the Apache's about to hit something, so they're gonna something like that, or even like battlefield illumination rockets can set it off, stuff like that. So you had to always listen to the comms, stay ahead of it. And typical new guy thing would be to just start punching the flares automatically,
Right.
Yeah, yes.
That's something I never thought about. See, I mean, I could understand how because the system doesn't know. It's just picking up. It has
Yeah.
the way it's picking up stuff. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so then you got out of the 16th. You got out of gunships, and then you went to a rescue squadron. Tell me about that. Like what?
I did, yeah.
Tell me about the decision to go from gunships, a gunner on a gunship, to a helo. Essentially you were you a gunner on a helicopter too, or were you the
Yeah. It
loadmaster?
was yeah. So at this point, what they did was, I think it was like 20. Don't quote me on this. Approximately 2013, the Air Force was like, "Hey, we're going to make a Special Missions Aviator," and what that means is combining basically for all these platforms, right? Is like or AFSOC and the rescue helicopters, but a loadmaster, aero gunner, and a flight engineer. Put them all in one. So now you have one guy performing all three of those tasks on gunships, CV-22s, and then 60 helicopters. And now the UH-1 does it, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So and at that point it was a Special Missions Aviator, but basically you learned to be a flight engineer and a gunner on 60s, what it was.
Oh, okay.
So I went to up here at Kirtland Air Force Base about 8 or 9 months. Man, honestly, that was a lot harder than learning to, for whatever reason, fly on a gunship. And I don't know if it was because like I had learned, fixed wing stuff so much to where like I had to forget everything I thought I knew about flying and start over.
Right.
And the flight engineer aspect of the 60 is there's a lot of knowledge you got to have, man. I thought about it one day. I was like if I'd studied this hard for anything, I'd be like a doctor or a lawyer, man.
Give me
And
some
so,
examples. Like what do you got to? I don't even know what a flight engineer does on a helo. Like, well, I understand the gunner part, but like what? Talk me a little bit about that.
So basically, there's all these different emergency procedures that could happen, like a loss of hydraulic fluid, for example, and it could be like a hydraulic system to like a certain system, So you would have to recognize what you got, do this real quick troubleshooting tree. So knowing those regular aircraft flying to keep you in the air systems, if you will, you had to know them like inside and out. They'd make you draw on stuff like that. And hey, I'm a drop of fuel, get me from a fuel tank all the way to combustion.
Yeah,
I really struggle with that stuff, but I had to, I studied it till just like anything, repetition, man, is the key, right?
sure.
And did that, man. I remember one time, even the motion part of it, I had a hard time getting used to. I actually threw up on it was my recommendation ride actually, and this guy, man, he's really good. We're good friends now, but he was behind me. He's getting evaluated to be an instructor by an evaluator, high time guy, right? And
sure.
I'm on the 7.62 minigun, man, and like, man, it was like, how they can bend the tips to give you like manipulate a malfunction, induce one, right? And so like he was built, bending the 7.62, and then like I was like jam after jam, and like then my links went down in the, the chute. And I'd got so concentrated, fixed on my gun, man, that I forgot to keep my scan up with my MVGs and stuff like that, which helps with that motion sickness.
Yeah.
And then I had my mask on.
Oh man!
And I was like,
jeez.
I was like, man, I gotta puke, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And like, so like, I'm like, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lean over like I'm getting these links out of this, right? And I'm gonna try to do it outside the helicopter. And he had the door open, and it was like splat. It like fragged him out right here. And he didn't even say anything. He just goes like this. He goes, one of those. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
And so like, yeah, but I finished the ride, man, and I ended up hooking it. That I think that was I hooked 2 rides in the 60 training, but that was one of them. But it wasn't a Q3 because it wasn't a check ride, thank God. But
yeah,
but he's like, man, he's like, if you'd have got this one step right, I would have been able to pass it, But like, I kept going was what he liked about it. So was the main thing there. But yeah, the next ride I balled out, man, and got my Jolly Green patch there, going to the 41st. But the mistake that was made sort of in the setup, because the SMA thing was relatively new. If you have a fixed wing guy going to a rotary wing, was the dunker part of that, the SEER training, right? Like,
right.
And man, I bombed that, bro. Like I go up there, man, and like, the last iteration where you have your blacked out goggles.
Yeah.
I could not find this door handle to save the life of me, man. And like, finally, I ended up failing at that point, and thank God the SEER guy threw me a bone, man. And like, I don't know if it's a good attitude or whatever, but He's like, yeah, you're going to work with this guy for a week. And then by the time that guy was done with me, man, I really was done like 20 minutes next time I went up there. So
Yeah. Let's take a quick break so I can tell you about a fun new podcast called So There I Was. If you're a fan of aviation or simply enjoy hearing captivating stories, then this is the podcast for you. Hosted by former Marine pilots Fig and Repeat, this podcast shares first-hand accounts of flying experiences that will have you on the edge of your seat. As a matter of fact, Anthony Dyer, my current guest on this episode, was on this, so there I was. Great episode. And also, I saw in there they had the Harrier pilots from the movie True Lies. They talk about hanging out with Arnold and how it was on the set. Whether you're in the mood for something funny, scary, poignant, or tragic, this podcast has it all. With a relaxed and conversational tone, the pilots share their stories like you're sitting right there with them at the bar after the flight. Hear from fighter pilots, astronauts, Blue Angels, aircraft carrier captains, Navy and Coast Guard rescue pilots, and many more. Most have survived near-death experiences. Others have overcome incredible disabilities to continue to fly airplanes. You'll hear about heart-pumping moments in the cockpit, hilarious screw-ups during flights, insane hijinks off-duty, and the challenges pilots routinely face. Hear what it feels like to be shot off a carrier or into space. Experience the terror of landing on a pitching deck at night so black that the pilot can barely taxi afterward because his legs are shaking so badly. Hear firsthand how lonely it is in the middle of the ocean in a life raft on a dark night in 8-foot seas. Each story is unique and told with a level of detail that will make you feel like you were there. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll laugh until you cry, but one thing is certain, you won't be bored. So there I was. It's how all great aviation tales begin. Subscribe today at sothereiwas.us. Yeah, I've never actually been in the dunker, but I've heard it's a pain in the ass. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable thing. It was a very abnormal thing, upside down, and that water's coming through your nose, and they want to see you breathe out of your Heeds bottle,
Oh, okay. So when you were there, is that when you got the Jolly Green Rescue Mission of the Year?
Yeah, that one, that was June 8th, 2018 in East Africa. It was a pretty nasty castevac down there, and I tell people on that particular operation, like, we saw the best side of combat search and rescue where you saved 5 lives, but we saw the worst side. One American didn't make it back, so that sticks with you. So
yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about it. Well, like, what was the deal? What happened?
Yeah, so there was basically like 40 Special Operations Forces guys, and there was a lot of partner nation guys, and they did like a gaff, on the Humvee, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't too far out, but it was about a 15-minute flight, and it was day 7 of the operation. And I remember I went to the talk, man. Everything's going good, right? To see, hey, you sleep when you can sleep, eat when you can eat, type thing. And
sure.
Me and this other guy went back to the tent, man, because everything was getting ready to wrap up, I think. And then you hear scramble, 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 and we take off, man. And like I remember, we're in like a right-hand bank, and then basically like we're fencing in, right? So we're arming our guns at that point and pulling chaff and flare pins. And the left gunner had a runaway gun, super experienced guy. Glad he was there, honestly, but his sear nos was worn or something to that effect, where the 50 cal just ran away. Oh. And I could see, we're in the right hand bank, so I could see the impacts on the ground. And then I pulled the flare pin simultaneously because again we're fencing in, going into the bad guy territory.
Sure.
And the water had got down in that panel, so it shorted out our flare system, which did jettisoned all of our flares, man.
Oh no!
I could feel the heat, like yeah, man. So I was like, surprised we have any eyebrows left at that point, man. It was like you could feel the heat from that shit,
Man.
And then by the at that point it was a JTAC. I could hear pieces of what I remember being a 5-line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. I was like, I literally said, what the fuck is going on? And then because all that's going on within a minute, the first minute of flight,
Yeah.
And then we get there, and I think we did about 4 gun runs, and we were lead, so we landed on this narrow road and picked up our 3 Cat Alphas, which that's where you get into the golden hour to get them back to let them live,
Sure.
And basically they brought one of the guys from I think 5th Special Forces group. He gets a tracheotomy. Then another Green Beret beside me. Then a partner nation guy got shot in the gut, and we take off. And then we go back into the gun pattern. And then Trail picks up their guys. We leave, come back, and then we leave, get our more beans and bullets, gas, all that good stuff. Go back to the fight because they had one more Cat Alpha to pick up, and then we did the gun runs while they picked up the last guy.
Okay.
And then we get back, and the experienced guy tells me, he's like, hey Dyer, check the aircraft for bullet holes, and I'm checking the 60 for bullet holes, and I went to the front of the aircraft, and I could see on my aircraft commander's face that we had lost somebody. So
wait,
yeah,
what do you mean? Like we lost somebody in the
ground?
No,
No, like someone passed away when they got back to the operating table
Oh,
is what
okay.
happened. Yeah, and it's like I said, someone's brother, someone's son, someone's friend. Man, I didn't know much about sacrifice till that day, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
I learned that.
Yeah, it's got to be rough because you guys are putting your lives on the line to get out there to get that guy, and man, sometimes it's just the wounds are just too much. Did you guys have PJs on board, or how did
Yeah,
what
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
medical
yeah.
team?
We had three PJs on ours and three on the other, and suit. The best in the world at what they do, man. And
Sure.
come to find out later, it wouldn't have mattered if we'd have got there 10 minutes earlier. The guy would have still died.
Oh,
It was
okay.
because he took a pretty much a direct with a mortar from the bad guys. There
Jeez.
was like what it was there was 12 guys in a tree line. I think we ended up getting like 8 of them, or approximately something. Between us, our 50 cals and the ground guys shooting as well. But then he basically, like I said, we got back, man, and I recognized my aircraft commander's face, what had happened. The guy passed away when he was on the operating table. Like I said, that's the one that really, it's not what you do in life that haunts you, it's what you don't do. So,
Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, I mean, sometimes it's just nothing you can do. I mean, you guys did everything you could, and
oh yeah,
sometimes it just doesn't work out. Man, it's a shame.
100%. Yeah.
But man, that's a pretty brave thing to do for you guys to go in there and into a hot LZ, suppressing enemy fire. And man, I mean, I've always had a real high regard for like rescue helos. I mean, you guys,
Oh yeah.
that's a dangerous job, man. I mean, because guys like us are already there, we're already in the fight, but you guys are flying into the fight and you're taking people out and exposing yourself and being up in the air. That's even a worse position than the guys on the ground are behind cover or concealment or some sort of defilade, whereas you're just like out there flapping, man.
Yeah, yeah, man, and I think that's like the whole reason I joined rescue, man, is because like, I always had this thing in my mind, like I'd never done enough.
Yeah.
There's a constant theme throughout my book about that. I realized early on, man, like I could never be like an operator, man. The water aspect of it alone, like I wouldn't have made it. I'm a realist, but like what I can do, man, is get on that gunship and make sure those guys on the ground get home. So
Yeah.
my whole why for all these years, man, and like after I went from helos back to gunships, my last trip to outside there, like basically it was really slow. You know what I mean? And I'd realized that the fighting was done. But both of these are jobs you really never want to have to do because like much as anybody, man, like if we're working, somebody's having their worst day or last day, and
Right.
I get that now, I really do, man. And like I get back, man, and I'm like, man, my whole why, my identity, everything's gone because I'd hit the retirement button. And that's what I really struggled with, man, and which led to a really bad, alcoholic problem, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then my wife, gives me the ultimatum of basically get help, me or the alcohol or the family. So, and I chose my family. So,
Nice. Well, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about your struggle. Tell me about how you got out of it. Did you seek out any help from any particular agencies, or did you do it on your own? Or tell me a little bit about that.
yeah, yeah. So I went to the so USOCOM, all the units, or at least should have at this point, the preservation of the force and family,
Mm-hmm.
and with that's the counseling, the MFLAC counselors,
Right.
military family life career counseling. Yeah, but those I saw a psychologist there, and I didn't want to take medication, man, and so at that point, like she was like, okay, well, there's this thing called prolonged exposure, and basically they get to the root cause is what it is of what's causing your trauma or whatever the case may be, and you write it out, and that's really how the story first actually came to words on paper. Was that like she's like, I wrote it out, and the idea is to get comfortable being uncomfortable, where you could talk about it, so, sort of like what we're doing here, and
Sure.
basically just get the story out to someone, right, and be at peace with it. And she's like, you should tell your story like 100 times. And I must have said no 100 times, man. And like once I got out, man, I realized this machine keeps going, man. Like there's not even a door hand on the other side of the MPF when you out process, right? Like
Right.
like maybe this identity, this sense of purpose thing it's real. It's a lot of people, man. And like maybe if someone does get help after reading the book, then that's a blessing. That's a win, man. So, and I think in the end, man, we're all wrapping up 2 decades of war,
Right.
and we're very ordinary men and women doing very extraordinary, unordinary things, man. So it's okay not to be okay, to take that tactical knee, especially after you retire, man, and do the family thing and just be happy,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of people struggle with that. They are so ramped up for their whole career, and then now there's nothing, and it's not even a slow descent out of it. It's just boom, almost cold turkey that you're out of it. So yeah, people struggle with that.
Yeah.
So that the therapy prompted the book, or it kind of led to the book. Like I said, tell me a little bit about the book. I mean, I know we kind of went into it before, but tell me, like I said, do you go into different stories, or like tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, yeah, man. So it's like somebody told me, this lady the other day, she's like, it's the only book's ever made her laugh and cry within an hour, man. So it's probably about a 2 hour. It's really, really short read, man. So man, there's a lot of like pranks and jokes and stuff like that, man. And there's a situation I can go into it here if you want,
Yeah,
man. But
please. Yeah.
yeah. So we're in Afghanistan, man, and this is one of the lighter side of the stories. But basically, we're getting ready to shoot, man, and there's this drone, and like they're tying up comms, SA bombing everybody, stating the obvious things like that, and they just wouldn't shut up, man. And like he's like, my aircraft commander's like on comms, is like, hey, Dyer, he's like tell those dick shiners to get off the radio. And he's like, no, I want you to use those exact words, and so I typed it in the, so I didn't whisper it to him in the chat, right?
Yeah.
In the whole op chat, the main one, I was in caps, like, hey, dick shiners, get off the radio, and there it was, our call sign, all this, and we ended up, I think, shooting like, it was like five guys. I think it was down there near Hellman, but it was like five guys with a 30 mil, and right before we RTB, you hear like Inspector 6-1, when you guys RTB come see me, and it was a camp, commandant, some full bird colonel. But yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of things like that, man. Just you know how there is pranks that happen downrange, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a pretty good arsenal of those coming from the fire department. I was ready, we'll say that. But when it gets into my first shoot and some of the other things and the ISIS conflict there and everything that was going on there, then the rescue mission, then it goes into getting help, and then in the end, I get to a point where I still to this day ask God, why does God let bad things happen to good people? And I'm still seeking that answer, to be honest with you, and I'm going to find it. But I am at peace with everything that's happened throughout my career. And like I said, I loved everybody I served with, man. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't even know if there is a purpose, frankly, but when I a lot of buddies of mine, we get on here and talk about stuff, and regardless of why we're there, regardless of why we went to the conflict, once you're there, it's about you and everybody else. All your brothers and sisters that are there. So, I mean, you went in there, you did your job. It's a little, man. Like I said, you guys you put yourself in a pretty vulnerable position a couple of times, and that can be unsettling, I guess. But you came out of it and you did what you had to do, and I think you're better for it. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you were able to overcome that. I mean, I think a lot of people get too wrapped up in their trauma or their PTSD, and I guess they're calling it PTS now. But they forget that there's a family there that loves you, and they want you to do well. And we have a hard time letting people in sometimes, and I think that's what the key is.
Yeah. I think the beautiful thing about it, man, is like there's people, like, I'm sure you're the same way. Like, I could call right now in different parts of the world, man, that would have my back, and I would have theirs, and
Definitely.
Like you said earlier, man, like all this is, people ask what you fight for, is it's for each other. And it's,
Right.
Especially as a gunship guy, it was about our brothers on the ground, it was about getting those guys home so they can see their family. And that's, like I said, that was my whole why, my whole purpose, man. So
yeah, it gives it makes you feel a lot better about what you're doing. I mean, it's a violent act, but I mean, it's necessary. So yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Tell me about advocating for mental health awareness. Like, how do you, like in your community in there in New Mexico, what do you do to advocate for that? Like, what kind of things are you into?
So the first thing I did was a book signing. This was actually back in Western North Carolina. I went home for this, and so all the money I got from the book signing, basically, long story short, there was a guy I went to high school with that took his own life, and there was a room dedicated to him in this place called the Equinox Ranch, which is if you ever get a chance to go there, it's in the mountains up there in Cullowhee, North Carolina, a beautiful place. And it's a place like, it gives veterans an escape, place to heal. They go fly fishing, whatever people want to do right there in the Appalachian. Long story short, my friend took his life. And then I dedicated all that money to his room that's dedicated to him up there. And there was a bunch of veterans there I got to talk to and stuff like that. And as far as like here in eastern New Mexico, what I want to do is, I don't know how I'm going to skin this cat yet, but it's basically create a way for all veterans. Every veteran has a story, basically a hub to where they could get if they have a story, to get published or edited free of charge is my idea behind it. But I'm still trying to lift that off the ground, if you will.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's a good idea. I
think like every veteran, man, like it's important to know like that what you did mattered, to me, that was a big deal. Like, after the Afghanistan withdrawal, man, I have to think that all that was for something. Like, a lot of people spent half their adult life over there, and people died over there, right? So I have to think that everything mattered that they did and what we did, stuff like that. So every story, man, nothing's too small, and I recommend everybody. You feel better if you get it on. Just bleed it out on the page, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with you. People, sometimes people have a hard time about the way we got out of Afghanistan. They think that it was all for nothing, but I don't think it's ever all for nothing. If you're over there, you're doing stuff over there. I mean, it's an important work, regardless of why you're there. Like once you're
Yeah,
there, that's it. I mean, you have to do what's best for, like you said, the men and the women to your left and right.
hundred
Yeah,
percent.
yeah, man. Yeah, this was awesome. Do you have anything else you want to go over? Or do you want to have anything else you want to cover? I mean, I think we nailed everything. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty good, man. Appreciate it.
yeah, I'm gonna put a picture of your book up. I don't have a copy of it on me, so I'm gonna put this up. Oh, you have it?
Gotcha. Yeah, I got it right here. Sorry, man. Yeah, so it's a Moonchild. This is the front of it. It's the H model Spectre gunship. All jets and star flares there, and then there's the back. Just basically me, my mask, and the moon there.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
And you said
appreciate it,
people can
man.
pick this up on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and it's out right now. And
Dave from yeah, yeah.
okay, good deal. Well, Anthony, thanks a lot for coming on, man. This was great. I really appreciate it. I was, like I said before, I was very interested in having you on because I kind of knew a little bit about what you guys do, but this has given me a lot of insight on, how that whole world works. I mean, it's kind of like for us guys on the ground, we kind of take it for granted. We're like, okay, cool, the gunship's here. Now let's get to work. But we forget that there's actual people up there doing hard work. And from personally me, and I think I can speak for everybody else. I mean, we can't thank you guys enough for what you guys have done for us in the gunship. I mean, that, like I said in the beginning, that's a phenomenal platform. And if I had my choice in a permissive environment, I'd choose the gunship over everything else every time.
So we appreciate that, man. Like I said, it was 100% all about you guys, man. So we loved us supporting you guys and everything you guys did, man. I mean, you're the tip of the spear, and that's what we were there for, is for you guys. So
Right on. All right, Anthony. I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
thank you, brother. Appreciate it, JD.